Hello everybody, hope everything's well, and as always, let's jump right into this. Now, this article brought to you by the Tech Museum of Innovation, Stanford at the Tech, Understanding Genetics. Okay? Now, how is it that red hair shows up in the people of African descent? A redhead of African descent is about as common as a Caucasian with red eyes, and there's a good reason for this. Being an albino causes them both. Except when people are of mixed ancestry. Red hair in Africans is usually caused by a kind of albinism. When people think of albinos, they tend to think of white hair, pale skin, and red eyes. While this is true for Caucasians, albinism works differently in people of African descent. Alright? Now, there are a few different kinds of albinism in people of African descent, but the one that gives red hair is called rufous albinism. People with this condition have a red bronze skin color, ginger red hair, and blue or brown eyes. Alright, now keep that in your mind because I'm going to be showing you some pictures of that in a bit. How is someone an albino? All of our coloring, our skin, hair, eyes, comes from melanin. Melanin is just a pigment or colored chemical substance, like the ones that are used to dye your clothes or maybe even your hair. Melanin comes in two different forms, pheomelanin, the red kind, and eomelanin, the brown kind. Now I'm going to play a clip here by a brother who's going to go more in depth with that. Watch and listen.
Is he an African?
No.
Hold on a second. You gotta ask yourself, well, what makes up an African? Culturally, spiritually, mentally? Is he an African?
We're talking about physical traits.
Well, the only physical trait that's different is what? What are the physical traits that are different from the Caucasian and the African? His skin and what else?
I can tell you.
That's what I'm asking.
Now, the reason why it's called RH negative or your RH type or RH positive is because the RH stands for rhesus monkey. Okay? The rhesus monkey is where the Europeans have their lineage from. Okay? They stem from the rhesus monkey. Okay? African people do not. Our origins have yet to be discovered on this planet.
All right,
there's no origin for Africans on this planet. Now, if you take back a few years ago, you would notice that Oprah Winfrey and all of those popular people were promoting the blood type testing to find out your ancestry.
Right.
So what they did was they grouped people into what they call DNA haplogroups, okay? And that was able to trace the Europeans back to, I believe it was 10 clans of Europeans where they originated in the European mountains, okay? Africans had 13 origins. Now, the Europeans only go back as far as I believe 50,000 years. 50,000 years is how long they've been on this planet, and they were evolved. So when you're dealing with the theory of evolution, that's dealing with European history, and that's why Europeans have such a high rate of skin cancer right now, is because they come from the rhesus monkey and they no longer wear the hair, they no longer wear the fur on their skin to cover their skin.
That's what you're saying, basically it's genetic.
It's absolutely genetic.
All right, but
that's why when you look at, that's why when you look at the biological element of life, okay, because you said over and over, Sinetta, we're dealing with humans. Mm-hmm. When you're dealing with humans, the prefix to man as far as human is hue. So when you're dealing with hue, you're dealing with color. The thing that provides color in a person is the melanin molecule. Their melanin molecule is completely different than ours, okay? There's two types of melanin. You have eumelanin and you have pheomelanin. Eumelanin is spelled E-U-M-E-L-A-N-I-N. Pheomelanin is spelled P-H-A-E-M-E-L-A-N-I-N. It's completely different. The melanin molecule that we possess has selenium at its core. The melanin molecule that they possess has sulfur at its core. That's why the foods and the diets that we eat are so important, because it affects us differently. If they have sulfur is an acid. It's a very powerful acid. So if they have acid at the core of their genetic structure, eating an acidic diet is going to affect them differently. Hence, you notice that 5% of Europeans are lactose intolerant, where 95% of African people are lactose intolerant.
Oh.
And that's due only to bloodline mixing over thousands and thousands of years. That's a fact. That's an absolute fact.
Hope you got a gist of what the brother was saying there about pheomelanin and eumelanin. I will be putting his full video in the description below. He also gets into the ancient labs that they find in Egypt. So it makes a lot of sense why they don't let you in certain parts of Egypt and the pyramids. Alright? Because they don't want you seeing the true history. Alright, now I want to read this last part for you. Being an albino just means that your body doesn't make melanin the right way. There are lots of different genes that can be mutated to cause albinism. Alright? Now, these Egyptian pharaohs, which I know a lot of you heard about them having blonde hair and red hair, and same thing with the giants that they are supposedly finding. Now, I couldn't really find any photos, any convincing photos of any mummified giants, so and I only heard one story about it, about the U.S. Army coming in contact with one in a cave in somewhere in Iraq, I believe. Alright. Now, most white people or Caucasians will tell you that these are Caucasians right here. Alright. And that proves that there was no dark-skinned pharaohs or African pharaohs. But as you can see, that is not the case. Alright, now these are Africans, or dark Arabs, alright, who have no European descent but have red hair, as you can see. Alright, and it even gives you a little photo right there next to it with red hair. Okay? And then you have this Melanesian with blonde hair with no European descent as well. And some will argue that they also have no African descent. Okay? But they are a part of the family of man. Alright? There is no African, as you can say, because remember, it was all one landmass, it was all one people. Alright? Now, these people are off the coast of Papua New Guinea, which I'll get into in a different video. Alright? Explaining the family of man and the original man and so on and so forth. Now, this is a dark-skinned Caucasian. Alright? Now, as you can see, he has the blonde hair. Alright? Clearly, this person right here is not a Caucasian. Okay? But they don't have, and they have no European descent. You know what I'm saying? They're not of European descent. No European ancestry, as you can see. And you can see he's somewhere in Egypt with the hieroglyphs in the back and everything. Okay? But blonde hair, as you can see. Alright, so like I was talking about in the beginning of this video, how they're suffering from albinism. Alright? And last but not least, this is an African boy. Again, no European descent with blue eyes. Okay, like I was talking about, like I said, I was saying in the beginning of this video, that they're suffering from some sort of albinism. Alright? These are black albinos. Alright? And they would be the ones a part of or used for the creation of the Caucasian. Alright, which I'll be getting into in a different video. I just wanted to show you that these mummies that they're finding are not of Caucasian descent. Okay? And the same thing would apply to the giants if they're finding them with that hair. Thank you for listening, and peace and balance to the ancient ones.